On the eve of the wedding, I held my fiancée Vanessa Lane's pregnancy test in my hand. It was stamped with a glaring positive. For weeks, we hadn't been intimate in 2 months. The child wasn't mine. 6 years of a relationship turned into a punchline in a split second. I announced the cancellation of the wedding right there, then vanished from the face of the earth. 3 years later, I would stun the world as a national asset. Meanwhile, abandoned by her lover, she would kneel in the shadows of high society, looking up at me, drowning in regret. She used every trick to win me back, unaware that I already viewed her as nothing more than dust. My counterattack wasn't just about making her regret. It was about making her, and everyone behind her, pay an unbearable price. "Ethan, what the hell do you mean?" Vanessa's shrill voice pierced through the phone, the wedding march playing ironically in the background. I stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows at the airport, watching a plane tear into the clouds. "The wedding is off." My voice was as calm as stagnant water. "Are you crazy? All the relatives and friends are here. How am I supposed to handle this? Where will my parents put their faces?" "Ask the bastard in your belly." I hung up, blocked the number, and powered down the phone in one smooth motion. Then, I snapped the SIM card in half and tossed it into the trash can. The world went silent. The day after the non-wedding, I moved everything I owned out of the apartment we shared. Clothes, books, computer, even a pair of slippers I'd bought. I left only one thing behind. That ultrasound report weighted down on the coffee table where it couldn't be missed. When Vanessa rushed in, wearing that expensive wedding gown, all she saw was a half-empty apartment and that thin sheet of paper. She called me like a maniac, her calls going from busy to number not in service. She stormed over to my parents' house, but my mother stopped her at the door with a cold stare. "Ethan, is he here? Let him come out." My mother looked at her, eyes devoid of warmth. "We don't have a daughter-in-law like you." Vanessa's makeup was ruined by tears. She gripped the doorframe, hysterical. "He can't do this to me. 6 years of a relationship, just because I made a tiny mistake." My mother laughed. Getting pregnant with another man's child is called a tiny mistake. The door was slammed shut. Unwilling to give up, Vanessa staked out my old office building. The receptionist politely informed her, "Mr. Cole has already resigned. We don't know his whereabouts." She didn't believe it. She was convinced I was just throwing a tantrum, hiding out, and that within 3 days, like countless arguments in the past, I would come crawling back to beg her forgiveness. 1 week later, I was still a ghost. Vanessa's mother finally lost her patience and called my mother, her tone arrogant and self-righteous. "Listen here, what is your son playing at? Humiliating our Vanessa at the wedding like that. And now he's playing hide-and-seek? Tell him to get his ass back here and apologize to my daughter." My mother replied with a single sentence. "Don't you know whose bastard is in your daughter's belly?" The other end of the line went dead silent. My mother hung up. Vanessa started to panic. She went crazy tagging me on Instagram and Facebook, writing tear-jerking essays one after another. She painted herself as a victim ruthlessly abandoned at the altar, every word accusing me of cold-blooded cruelty. She didn't mention a word about the cheating or the pregnancy. Her rich college junior, Julian Sterling, wrapped his arm around her shoulder, comforting her softly. "Nessa, don't be sad. That loser programmer with no future? Good riddance. He couldn't give you the life you want. You have me now." Vanessa was charmed instantly, leaning into Julian's embrace, tossing me to the back of her mind. She quickly went to a clinic for an abortion. Julian went with her, signed the papers, then leaned against the corridor wall, impatiently scrolling through his phone. On that same day, I signed a different document, a top-secret non-disclosure agreement. I walked through a heavy, isolated gate. This was the country's most classified AI laboratory, codenamed Project Zenith. The project director, Dr. Vance, patted my shoulder, his tone solemn. "Ethan, from today on, forget the past. Here, your genius will define the future." Before entering the lab, I turned on my phone one last time. The screen showed a photo of Vanessa and me, her smile bright. Expressionless, I selected the photo, along with all her contact information, and hit permanent delete. From then on, my world had no Vanessa Lane. In the first month of my disappearance, Vanessa lived the life she had always dreamed of. Julian rented her a high-end apartment downtown. The walk-in closet was piled high, with designer bags and heels she used to only ogle in magazines. Her daily life became shopping, afternoon tea, and spa treatments. On Instagram, she posted photos of a Porsche steering wheel with the caption, "A woman needs to treat herself right. You have to leave the wrong person to meet the right one." Rows of envious likes and comments followed. "Nessa, you finally figured it out. That Ethan guy obviously couldn't make you happy. Julian is the man. That's true love. Vanessa looked at these comments, her vanity immensely satisfied. She completely forgot the man who had once eaten ramen for 2 months just to buy her a designer bag. Julian took her to high-end clubs, introducing her to his friends. Those trust fund kids called her sister-in-law to her face, polite and smiling. But the moment they turned around, they mocked her. Julian's wild, picking up sloppy seconds like that. A woman who sells out a 6-year relationship for cash? Just play with her, don't take it seriously. Occasionally, these words drifted into Vanessa's ears, but she pretended not to hear. She started pressuring Julian to get married, wanting a marriage license to solidify her status. Julian always found excuses to deflect. Babe, isn't it great how we are now? Marriage is such a hassle. My parents haven't been well lately. Let's talk about it later. The money he gave her started to shrink, from an unlimited credit card initially to a fixed $5,000 a month, and finally, she had to watch his mood just to buy a purse. During one argument, Vanessa broke down and asked him if he actually loved her. Julian, annoyed, ripped off his tie and blurted out, "You think I actually want to marry you? A woman who can sell 6 years of feelings for money. You're good for a hookup, but you really think you're something special?" The words were like a bucket of ice water dumped over Vanessa's head. She went cold all over, but she didn't dare leave Julian. She was addicted to the luxury. She couldn't go back to the days of scrimping and saving. She thought of one last way: trap him with a baby. She went to the hospital for a full checkup to prepare for pregnancy. The doctor looked at the report, brows furrowed. "Ms. Lane, have you had an abortion before?" "Yes." "Yes, why?" The doctor sighed, tone sympathetic. "The last surgery was botched. It caused permanent damage to your uterine lining. The chances of you getting pregnant in the future are microscopic." Vanessa's brain buzzed, going blank. This news was the straw that broke the camel's back. When Julian found out, he didn't look surprised. He looked relieved. He pulled a check from his wallet and threw it in front of Vanessa. 10 grand. Severance pay. Take the money and get out. Vanessa was thrown out of that luxury apartment by 2 bodyguards like trash, luggage, and all. She stood on the bustling street corner with a few expensive suitcases, dazed. The cold wind of late autumn cut through her thin dress. For the first time, she felt a bone-deep chill and regret. She remembered my kindness. Remembered how I would put her freezing hands into my coat pockets in winter. Remembered the future I had planned for her. Ordinary, perhaps, but full of warmth and life. Her hands trembling, she took out her phone and frantically searched my name, dialing the number she knew by heart. However, there was no information about me online. The phone only ever returned the cold message: "The number you have dialed is not in service." It was as if I had truly evaporated from the human world. 3 years, over 1,000 days, I lived as a string of code, a symbol. Inside the isolated Zenith base, time lost its meaning. My team and I conquered technical barriers one after another. The AI chips we developed were a full generation ahead of the world in performance. Project Zenith achieved a breakthrough. As the core leader and the youngest chief scientist, I represented the team at the Global Artificial Intelligence Summit held in San Francisco. This was my first public appearance in 3 years. Outside the venue, Vanessa was wearing a cheap business suit, a staff badge hanging around her neck, ushering guests into the hall. 3 years had carved fatigue and hardship onto her face that she couldn't hide. After being dumped by Julian, her life had plummeted. Designer bags were replaced by canvas totes. The luxury apartment was swapped for a partitioned room in a rough neighborhood. Relying on her fading looks, she got a job at a PR firm doing the lowest level of reception work for meager pay. She was smiling mechanically, repeating, "Welcome." By chance, she looked up and saw the massive electronic screen at the entrance. On the screen was my ID photo, and below it, a striking introduction: Project Zenith Chief Scientist, Dr. Ethan Cole. Vanessa's smile froze. She thought she was seeing things and rubbed her eyes hard. It really was me. The man in the photo wore a crisp suit and gold-rimmed glasses. He looked elegant, but his eyes were sharp enough to make her flinch. She went mad, shoving through the crowd, rushing to the front row of the venue. On stage, the man surrounded by tech moguls, government officials, and media reporters was speaking fluently in English. He was confident, composed, radiant. Every word, every gesture exuded a powerful aura she had never seen before. Vanessa's mind went blank. This was the Ethan she had despised for being unambitious, for not making big money. The man she thought was still coding in obscurity at some small company. My speech ended, and I walked off the stage under the escort of security. Below the stage, the CEOs of Apple, Google, and Microsoft stood up, stepping forward to shake my hand their attitudes humble and respectful. Vanessa watched all this, soul-crushed. A colleague beside her grabbed her arm, screaming in a whisper, "Oh my God, that's Dr. Cole, a national asset. He's 10,000 times hotter in person. I heard he's single. National asset. Single." These words were like poison daggers stabbing into Vanessa's heart. She looked at me, the center of attention, then down at herself, disheveled in a cheap uniform. The massive disparity and regret drowned her like a tidal wave, suffocating her. "No, he can't be single. He should be mine. This glory, this attention, it should have been shared with me." She ignored everything and broke through the security line, screaming my name. "Ethan!" The shrill voice pierced the warm atmosphere of the venue. Everyone's eyes turned to her. My steps toward the VIP room paused. I turned my head, my gaze calmly sweeping over that face, both familiar and strange. Then I continued walking. As I passed by her, I spoke in a voice only the two of us could hear, cold as ice. "Ma'am, do we know each other?" Vanessa was struck by lightning, freezing in place, her body stiff. The gala dinner was held at a top-tier hotel overlooking the bay. It was a scene of luxury and high society. As the summit's most important guest, I was chatting and laughing with industry titans. Vanessa, somehow, had managed to sneak in. She had changed out of the cheap uniform and into a designer dress she had kept at the bottom of her closet, the only one she could still show off, and applied exquisite makeup. Like a lioness locking on a prey, she cut through the crowd, walking straight toward me. "Ethan!" She rushed over, grabbing my arm, tears coming on command, looking at me with puppy dog eyes. "Ethan, I was wrong. Will you forgive me? Let's start over." The surroundings went instantly quiet. Everyone's gaze, filled with inquiry and gossip, focused on us. I calmly extracted my arm, as if I'd been touched by something filthy. I picked up a napkin from the table and methodically wiped the spot she had just touched. Then, I tossed the used napkin accurately into a nearby trash can. The action was more insulting than any words. Vanessa's face went deathly pale. I looked at her, my eyes holding no ripples, no anger, no resentment, just pure indifference. "Miss, I think you're mistaken. My fiancé died 3 years ago, on the eve of our wedding." My voice wasn't loud, but it carried clearly to every corner of the banquet hall. Vanessa trembled, crying like a pear blossom bathed in rain. I was confused back then. The person I love has always been you. I've had such a hard time these 3 years. I've been looking for you. She was performing her deep affection with hysterical intensity. I let out a light chuckle. "You were looking for me? Were you looking for me in Julian's Porsche or in the luxury boutiques of Europe?" Vanessa's sobbing cut off abruptly. She stared at me in terror. I took a step forward, leaning in, my gaze sweeping over her carefully made-up face. "Oh, right. I forgot to tell you. After I canceled the wedding 3 years ago, I donated everything you ever gave me to a recycling center. Including that diamond ring you once said to my face was too cheap to wear out." Vanessa's body began to shake uncontrollably. I leaned down, lowering my voice to a level only she could hear, articulating every freezing syllable. "As for you, a woman who can treat her own child as a bargaining chip, you think you're worthy of talking to me about feelings? What are you even worth?" With that, I straightened up, not sparing her another glance. I lifted my chin at the security guards nearby. "Please remove this woman. She is disturbing the order of the venue." Vanessa broke down completely. She screamed, struggled, and cursed. "Ethan Cole, you can't do this to me. You bastard. You'll pay for this." 2 large security guards grabbed her by the arms and dragged her out of the banquet hall like a dead dog, in full view of everyone. Throughout the process, the expression on my face never changed. I raised my wine glass, offering an apologetic toast to the disturbed guests. A little personal grudge. Sorry to dampen the mood. I'll drink to apologize. I downed the wine. It was as if that hysterical woman was just an insignificant interlude. The atmosphere of the dinner quickly returned to its warmth, but the look in everyone's eyes when they looked at me now held a trace of awe. This man was not only terrifyingly strong in his professional field, but his methods were utterly ruthless. After being kicked out of the gala, Vanessa became the joke of the circle. The next day, she was fired by the PR company. The reason? Provoking trouble in a significant venue, seriously damaging the company image. Vanessa, now desolate, went completely off the rails. She managed to dig up my parents' current address from an old neighbor. She began a self-righteous redemption campaign. The first time, she showed up with a basket of expensive fruit. My mom opened the door, saw it was her, and without a word, threw the fruit basket out, sending apples rolling everywhere. Get out. You are not welcome here. The second time, she got smarter. She brought nothing and just waited downstairs at my parents' house from day to night. In the cold, late autumn night, she shivered, looking pitiful. My dad couldn't stand it and called the police. The police came, treated her as a vagrant, and persuaded her to leave. The third time, she escalated, kneeling with a thud right at the entrance of the building. She cried her heart out, attracting a crowd of neighbors. Mom, Dad, I really know I was wrong. Please let me see Ethan just once. We were together for so long. How can you be so heartless? The neighbors, not knowing the truth, started pointing fingers at my parents. My mom was so angry she nearly had a heart attack. Holding her chest, she was helped back inside by my dad. I received a call from my father. His voice was exhausted. Son, Mom and I are fine. You focus on your work. We can handle family matters. Hanging up, my face was ice cold. I pulled a few strings and had the local precinct list Vanessa as a high-risk harassment subject. The moment she came within 100 yards of my parents' community, the surveillance system would automatically alert the police for immediate removal. Finding the road to my family blocked, Vanessa started emailing me. My work email was public, and she sent hundreds a day. The content ranged from tearful confessions to memories of our sweet past, and finally to hysterical threats. Ethan, if you ignore me again, I'll leak everything about our past online. I'll let everyone see what kind of heartless man you are. Reading these emails, I just found them noisy. I had my AI assistant write a small program. It automatically identified all emails from Vanessa, auto-replied with 2 words, read, archived, and then moved them to the trash for permanent deletion. Unable to find me, she tried to corner Dr. Vance. She stopped him just as he was leaving the institute. Dr. Vance, I'm Ethan's girlfriend. We have a misunderstanding. Can you help me talk to him? The security detail beside Dr. Vance separated her expressionlessly. Ma'am, please leave. This is a classified government facility. To me, all of Vanessa's actions were like a clown performing screaming antics on stage. Ludicrous, laughable, but they couldn't stir even a ripple in my heart. She probably would never understand that when one person is completely disappointed in another, all that remains is endless indifference. Vanessa went for broke. She created a burner account on Twitter and crafted a long, sensational post titled, My 6 Years with National Scholar Ethan Cole, From Deep Love to Abandonment, a regular girl's bloody accusation. In the article, she painted me as a charity case who relied on her family's money to get through college, claiming that once I achieved success, I kicked her, the supportive wife, to the curb to climb the social ladder. She tearfully accused me of vanishing on the wedding day, subjecting her to humiliation and ignoring her 3 years of desperate searching. She even attached tons of our old intimate photos, contrasting them with her current haggard selfies. Naturally, she didn't write a single word about the cheating or the pregnancy. This essay was incredibly inflammatory and fermented quickly online. Netizens, blind to the truth and deceived by the devoted woman abandoned by heartless man narrative, launched a frenzied cyber attack on me. The hashtag Scholar Ethan Cole abandons wife shot to the top of the trending list. I didn't expect Ethan Cole to be this kind of person. What a waste of the title national asset. You can know a person's face, but not their heart. High IQ, trash morals. My heart breaks for this sister. 6 years of youth fed to the dogs. My project team felt the heat. External pressure groups called, demanding I clarify my private life. Before I could make a move, Dr. Vance got angry first. He slammed the table in his office, furious. This is absurd. A hero of the state, slandered by these clowns? Ethan, stay out of it. I'll handle this. Dr. Vance made a direct call to the Department of National Security. He utilized the power of the state. Early the next morning, an official blue-check account certified as the Project Zenith office released a statement. It was short, but carried the weight of a mountain. Statement regarding recent online public opinion concerning Dr. Ethan Cole. Dr. Ethan Cole, 3 years ago, following a major personal emotional trauma, resolutely accepted the organization's invitation to dedicate himself to the classified Project Zenith. For 3 years, Dr. Cole cut off all non-essential contact with the outside world, devoting his lifeblood to scientific research, making outstanding contributions to our nation's breakthroughs in artificial intelligence. His personal character and patriotism are exemplary. Most lethally, attached to the end of the statement was a scan document with sensitive parts redacted. It was a voluntary NDA for classified projects. My signature on the commitment was bold and clear, and the date was clearly visible, exactly the day after I canceled the wedding. This statement was like a heavy bomb, instantly detonating the internet. Public opinion flipped in a heartbeat. Holy crap. So that's the truth. Major emotional trauma, 3 years ago. Eve of the wedding? I smell a massive plot twist. So the woman did something to betray Dr. Cole, and he threw himself into serving the country out of heartbreak. I knew it. How could someone chosen by the state have bad character? Netizens turned into Sherlock Holmes, digging deep into Vanessa. Soon, someone unearthed old photos from her social media, showing her intimate with Julian Sterling and bragging about shopping sprees in Europe. Comparing the timelines, the truth was out. The so-called abandoned wife narrative was just a farce staged by a gold digger caught cheating. Vanessa suffered total social death. Her Twitter was overrun by angry netizens. Millions of comments, each one a curse or an insult. She hid in her dark rental, watching the vicious words on her phone, her hands shaking uncontrollably. She had wanted to use public opinion to destroy me. She never expected that the one crushed to powder by the wheels of public opinion would be herself. The crushing defeat in the PR war made Vanessa disappear for a while. I thought she would finally accept reality and stop bothering me. But I underestimated the shamelessness of her family. Vanessa's parents found my research institute. Naturally, they were blocked at the gate. But through a distant relative, they passed a message to me. It was ugly. Ethan, because of you, our Vanessa is ruined and lost her job. You have to take responsibility. Either you publicly apologize to Vanessa and marry her to restore our family's reputation, or we will use all our connections to make sure your little project has an accident. We'll show you what it feels like to have nothing. The messenger watched my face carefully. I listened and I laughed. It was a laugh cold enough to freeze bone. They thought I was still that poor kid from 3 years ago they could bully. They thought their connections were worth mentioning in front of me. I returned to my office, opened my computer, and gave my AI assistant a command. Pull all public commercial data, financial reports, equity structures, and related transaction info for Lane Enterprises. Analyze deeply. Find the fatal weaknesses. The supercomputing power of Zenith spun up. On the screen, infinite streams of data flashed by madly. It took only 10 minutes. A 100-page analysis report generated on my desktop. The report precisely pinpointed 3 fatal financial loopholes in the Lane family business, 2 major overseas contracts about to default, and multiple illegal related party transactions they used to pad their books. Any one of these was enough to damn them eternally. I anonymously sent this report to Lane Enterprises' main competitors and their largest creditor bank. Then, I closed my laptop and continued my work, as if I had just swatted a buzzing fly. 1 week later, Lane Enterprises stock began to hit the limit down without warning. Their competitors, like sharks smelling blood, launched precise commercial snipes, stealing their most important clients. The largest creditor bank sent an investigation team, announcing a reevaluation of their credit rating and demanding early repayment of a massive loan. The capital chain snapped instantly. The small company that had seemed so glorious plunged into bankruptcy overnight. Vanessa's father begged everyone he knew, hitting walls everywhere. Only then did he vaguely learn from a bank executive that he seemed to have offended someone he absolutely shouldn't have touched. He took Vanessa and came to the entrance of my institute again. This time, there was no arrogance. They knelt on the cold, rainy pavement in front of the gate. I was in my office drinking tea. My assistant pointed to the security monitor. Dr. Cole, those 2. I looked through the thick, bulletproof glass of the institute, watching the 2 figures on the monitor shivering in the rain like ants, my expression blank. I said to the assistant lightly, "Tell security the ground is cold. Don't let them kneel there and get sick. It might affect the mood of the scientists." Soon, several guards walked out with umbrellas. Amidst desperate crying, the Lane father and daughter were once again invited out of my world. After dealing with the Lanes, I remembered someone else. Julian Sterling. The final straw that broke my 6-year relationship. My principle is pull the weeds up by the roots, take them all out. I had the Zenith AI conduct a comprehensive data scan and correlation analysis on the Sterling family enterprise. The company looked shiny on the surface, a star local business. But under the AI's deep mining, behind a complex equity structure lay years of tax fraud and dirty trails of illegal capital transfer. The chains of evidence were as clear as textbook case studies. I compiled all the encrypted data into an anonymous whistleblower letter and submitted it directly to the highest levels of the IRS and the Economic Crimes Division. I didn't need to worry about the rest. Once the state machine starts turning, its efficiency is terrifying. Within half a month, the news that the Sterling family was under investigation hit the business headlines. Tax evasion, money laundering, embezzlement of state assets. Every charge was a felony. All assets frozen, company seized. His father was thrown in jail. Julian went from a big spending, partying trust fund baby to a destitute heir shouldering massive debt overnight. Luxury cars, mansions, all auctioned by the court. He was kicked out penniless. One afternoon, outside a cheap fast food joint, he bumped into an equally disheveled Vanessa. The two locked eyes. There was no warmth of old lovers, only bone-deep resentment. "It's all your fault, you jinx. If not for you, why would my dad have messed with Ethan, that grim reaper?" Julian slapped Vanessa across the face. Vanessa lunged at him like a maniac, clawing at his face. "Julian, you bastard. You hit on me first. You ruined everything I had." Two people who once rolled in the sheets together were now like two stray dogs, cursing each other on the busy street, blaming the other for every mistake, finally brawling in the dirt. This scene was filmed by passers-by and uploaded online. It quickly became fodder for gossip. Hashtag former lovers street fight. I stumbled across the grainy video during a break in my office. In the video, their faces were hideous, their behavior grotesque. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no joy. I just casually closed the tab and continued reading my data report. To me, they were already irrelevant dust. Dirtying my eyes was their only crime. My life had moved completely onto the right track. Project Zenith entered a brand new phase. We needed an expert with high attainments in quantum computing. After layers of screening, a female scientist named Elena Ross joined my team as deputy lead. She was young, only a year younger than me, but was already the youngest tenured professor at MIT. For Zenith, she resolutely gave up lucrative offers abroad and returned to the motherland. Elena was brilliant, independent, and visionary. We had astonishingly identical views on the future of AI. She was the only person on the team who could keep up with my mental pace. We often debated fiercely in the lab until late at night over a technical problem. We would also smile at each other and high-five after conquering a barrier. She wasn't like Vanessa. She never interfered with my work because she loved this cause as much as I did. But she would carefully bring me a cup of hot coffee after I had worked 10 hours straight, accompanied by a faint, "Watch your health." When I was irritable over a data error, she would silently recalculate it for me, then point out the deeply hidden bug. This tacit understanding and unspoken care were things Vanessa had never given me. Vanessa's care was, "When do you get off work? How much is your bonus this month? When are you getting promoted?" Elena's care was, "Your direction is right. We could try another algorithm. I believe in you." At a project celebration dinner, Dr. Vance had a bit too much to drink. He pulled me and Elena over, joking, "Ethan, Elena, seeing you two standing together, it's really a match made in heaven. Why don't you two just get together and solve one of my worries?" The colleagues around us started cheering. I looked at Elena. Under the lights, a rare blush rose on her usually calm face. In that moment, I felt a trace of warmth in my heart that had been frozen for 3 years. Vanessa saw all of this through various gossip news and financial reports. She hid in that damp, 10-square-meter rental room, eating soggy instant noodles while watching the TV screen. On the TV was footage of Elena and me attending an international tech forum together. The host called us the power couple of the tech world. In the photo, we stood side by side, eyes meeting perfectly in sync. Vanessa looked at us radiating light on the screen, then at the cold noodle cup in her hand and her own stained hands. Jealousy and regret gnawed at her heart like vipers. She finally understood. She hadn't just lost a man who loved her. She had lost a radiant new world that could have belonged to her. This clear realization was more painful than any punishment. Vanessa's father, due to the bankruptcy and the series of blows, suffered a stroke and was hospitalized. The doctor said the situation was critical and required immediate surgery, costing at least $50,000. $50,000. For the current Vanessa, it was an astronomical figure. She sold off the last bit of jewelry she had left, begging relatives and friends for loans. But now, in everyone's eyes, she was like a plague. Relatives avoided her. Friends had long since blocked her. She had nowhere to turn. She found out I was attending a charity gala. Using the last of her connections, she asked an old friend to get her in as a server. Halfway through the gala, I was discussing an AI medical partnership with several entrepreneurs. Vanessa, holding a tray, head lowered, walked up to me. She didn't cry, didn't make a scene. 3 steps away from me, she set down the tray and then, stiffly, knelt down. Her forehead pressed heavily against the cold marble floor. "Ethan," her voice was hoarse, dry, filled with despair. "I know I was wrong. I don't ask you to forgive me, nor do I ask for us to go back to the past. I beg you, lend me $50,000 to save my dad. I'll write an IOU. I'll work like a dog for you for the rest of my life. I will pay you back. Her posture was humble to the point of being dust. She was a different person from the girl in my memory who always held her head high and acted arrogant. I watched her quietly. I remembered 3 years ago how her mother had arrogantly told me over the phone to get back here and apologize. I remembered how she had linked arms with Julian, showing off on social media about leaving the wrong person. I spoke faintly, my voice not loud, but enough for her to hear clearly. First, I don't lend money to people with no ability to repay. Second, what does your father's illness have to do with me? Vanessa snapped her head up, eyes full of unbelieving despair. Just for the last bit of sentiment from our 6 years. Can't you? She was still bringing up that laughable sentiment. I interrupted her. Sentiment. From the moment you got pregnant with another man's child, our sentiment turned into hatred. That I didn't stomp on your family when they went bankrupt and ruin you completely is already my greatest mercy. With that, I looked away. I stepped around her kneeling form and walked straight toward Elena nearby. Elena was holding a wine glass, waiting for me quietly. I took the glass naturally from her hand, raised it with her, and continued the conversation with the entrepreneurs opposite us. From start to finish, I never looked back at Vanessa kneeling on the floor. She and her despair were, to me, nothing more than a smudge in the background. Vanessa's father eventually died in the hospital because they couldn't raise the surgical fees in time. The Lane family had completely fallen. After handling her father's funeral, Vanessa sat alone in her empty home, which had been sealed by the court. Her eyes were hollow, like a walking corpse. Just then, her phone screen lit up, pushing a local headline news notification. Hashtag National Scholar Ethan Cole proposes. Tech world power couple finally engaged. The photo accompanying the news was from an internal celebration marking the 1,000th day of Project Zenith. I was on one knee, presenting a ring to Elena. That ring was one I had hand-polished myself using a brand-new metal material developed by our team. Under the ballroom lights, it shone with a unique brilliance more dazzling than diamond. In the background, Elena, tears in her eyes, nodded happily. Dr. Vance and all our colleagues were behind us, erupting in thunderous applause and blessings. Vanessa looked at our happy, smiling faces on the phone screen. Then she looked at her own hands, cracked and stained from overwork. She suddenly laughed, a laugh uglier than crying. She had lost completely, body and soul. She returned to her dark rental, dragging a dusty box out from under the bed. Inside were photo albums of our past 6 years. She looked at them one by one, looking at the boy in the photos who used to obey her every whim, whose eyes were full of only her. Then, she took out a lighter and set all the photos, along with the box, on fire. In the roaring flames, she seemed to see 3 years ago, the self who wore a pure white wedding dress, crying uncontrollably in an empty auditorium. She had thought that day was the end of her pain. Now she understood. That day was merely the beginning of her endless regret. 5 years later, Elena and I had a lovely daughter, nicknamed Sky. Our Zenith AI had been deeply integrated into the nation's defense, medical, and transportation sectors, profoundly changing the world. I was invited to New York to attend a world-class academic exchange summit. Elena and our daughter accompanied me. After the conference, our family of 3 took a walk along the Hudson River, enjoying a rare moment of leisure. The setting sun's afterglow spilled over the water, shimmering. At a street corner, a ragged, matted-haired Asian woman was digging through a public trash can. She pulled out a discarded sandwich, wolfing it down, mumbling something to herself. Her profile, in the dusk light, faintly resembled Vanessa. Elena followed my gaze and asked softly, "What's wrong?" I shook my head, withdrawing my gaze, and smilingly put my arm around her shoulder. "Nothing. Just saw someone. Looked like they were lost." I didn't look back, nor did I have any interest in going over to confirm, because who she was, whether she was alive or dead, crazy or foolish, or how she was living, had long been irrelevant to me. In my world, the sun was shining, my family was by my side, and the future was promising, and she had lost even the qualification to be a symbol in my memories. This is the most thorough and also the cruelest punishment for a traitor, to let them truly die from your world. Story complete.